Bienvenidos a un nuevo episodio de Somos Founders Hour. Les saluda Edgar Navas, fundador de Clica. Welcome to Somos Founders podcast. This is Edgar Navas, your founder at Clica. And today I have a new guest. It's actually a really good friend of mine, my brother from Texas, Nathan Towry. Amazing, spectacular human being. Nathan, thanks for finally joining, man. I had to convince you, but I'm really honored that you're here in the show, man.
Edgar, thanks, man. I really appreciate this, brother. Yeah, you've been a mentor to me through this process, so this is awesome. Thank you.
No, I mean, it's just, my pleasure. So, but man, you have a fascinating story, man. And again, a little biased because I already know you, but I want people to know, who Nathan is. I mean, where are you coming from, where you grew up, and what made you become a startup founder?
Yeah, man. Well, thank you. I mean, I was born and raised in a small town in West Texas, a small town called Uvalde. Our claim to fame is Matthew McConaughey was born there, of all things.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So do you know him?
No, I don't. Although my sister was friends with his older brother, whose name is Rooster. They went to school together.
Rooster, of course,
yeah,
he is.
McConaughey's moved away like when Matthew was in 5th or 6th grade or something like that. But
okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, raised in a small town, played, high school, college football, etc. And when I was 19, I moved out to Los Angeles, kind of serendipitously. I had the opportunity to film a commercial, and I knew nothing about acting, but I was done with playing college football. Too many hits to the head, a couple of busted up shoulders, and I was just done with it. What am I going to do with myself now? So my buddy was a sports agent. He said, "Hey, come out to LA. You can film this commercial for Foot Locker and make a bunch of money." And I did.
At 19, yeah.
Yeah, I was like 19. So yeah, I moved out there, and I didn't work again for about 5 years in the acting industry. So in that meantime, I took up personal training, as well as doing yoga and some meditation and some stuff like that. The yoga was to really kind of like help heal my shoulders. I mean, I was still carrying a lot of muscle back then. And so, yeah, the journey kind of started to where I'm at now with the founder stuff, started with that 5 years of personal training. Because again, I didn't work in the industry and I had to pay the bills one way or another. So
no, absolutely. But yeah, and going back to like that early days, I mean, going from a small town in West Texas, rural West Texas, almost in the middle of nowhere, to LA. How was that shock, and how did that transform you, who you are right now? How do you think that? I mean, initial culture.
I mean, yeah, because I was raised, on a working cattle ranch. I mean, literally being a caballero, just on horseback, etc. So, all I knew was that there was an opportunity to go out to LA, and at that point in time, I felt like a bit of a calling to go to it. And everybody said I was crazy and, all of that good stuff. But yeah. But the culture shock was, intense. So you go from a town of 16,000 to Los Angeles. When I first moved there, I lived in Burbank. And I mean, from traffic to just the intensity of the city and all of that. But what it taught me was how to survive. It taught me how to really quickly figure out, like, this is make or break. I either have to go back to Uvalde or I start making ends meet and learn how to hustle.
Right.
And so that for sure has informed me in the startup world I'm in now. And then going on auditions and things like that. I mean, it's a pretty, kind of raw experience. You're going in, you sit in a room and you see a bunch of guys around that look just like you, if not better looking, who are all trying to go for the same commercial or same TV show. And really quickly, I learned, like, you've got to figure out ways to differentiate yourself, and it's rough out there, So
it's not easy. No.
I got pretty thick skin early on, and a lot of that has definitely informed, what we're doing now as far as the company goes.
Okay. But, so you go from one type of culture where you were surrounded by immigrants, I mean, not that other people are not hardworking, but, they're manual labor, physical, a lot of pain, and in this case, a lot of like long-term injuries or prone to injury. And then you go to this, brand new world, which is Tinseltown, this, bright lights, very good looking people everywhere, shit ton of people, like, I don't know, 15 million people in one small. So, when do you when did you start thinking like, hey, I got to go back to my roots, and this is an idea that I can help, where I can, help people solve the problems?
Right. So I was in the acting industry for about 5 or 6 years, and I just started to become more and more disillusioned. I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I had some success, but it wasn't really speaking to me. And I just knew that I needed to get back to something that felt more fulfilling. And I've always loved helping people heal themselves with physical movement. And that was a lot of I did personal training, but a lot of what I was doing was incorporating yoga, teaching meditation. And that kind of stuff, I got so much more joy out of that than trying to help somebody build bigger biceps. So when I first got back into it, I was around 30, 31. And that's when I was like, I really want to approach this helping people move in a better way. So if it's either to heal themselves, to get themselves back in the game, to make sure that they can still throw the football with their kid whenever they're 60, 70, whatever that is.
Right.
There was more to it than just say lifting weights, and that holistic kind of feeling was something that I really wanted to do, because stretching and doing all this other stuff, I was just getting so much more gains with people, teaching them how to strengthen their core,
right,
how to be more mobile. And that's where it really started for me to kind of go, I was like, I'm onto something. I started looking outside the typical gym scenario to see how I could start bringing in this kind of newer ways of helping people heal themselves.
I see. Yeah. And when was there ever an aha moment when you said well, you start gathering all these ideas, and at some point they gotta turn into a linear path, okay, this is it, here's the click, and I'm gonna go straight like an arrow?
So I think it was a slow evolving kind of thing, but I kept experiencing, or what I kept getting from people was people wanted more and more to learn how to breathe deeply, how to stretch, how to do these kinds of things. And what I kept experiencing was at times people, it's called proprioception. So proprioception is kind of if you close your eyes, knowing where your body is in space and time. People were struggling with that kind of thing. And I think I kept trying to figure out ways to help people understand more about where their body was. I mean, it's wild that we inhabit these bodies for, however long in our lives, but we can be 30, 40, 50 and still not really feel fully in our bodies. And I just started to realize as I could get people to feel more and more in their bodies, they felt more complete and more in control of their lives. But that's where I think what led up to everything that started the company was I was slowly on this gradual path of how do I help people feel more complete and more in their bodies. Yeah.
And not one at a time, because I mean that's very limited. I mean that's where it all starts, but you start formulating that idea now how do I make it bigger? How do I get out of one room? And well, so now you're in Portland. How do you get from LA to Portland?
So I mean, really what happened was I was kind of again done with my film career, but a really good friend of mine lives up here, and he was filming a documentary. So the documentary is filming from all the way up Canada down to Northern California, and it's about the forestry industry.
Okay.
And I walked off the plane up here from being in LA. It was my first time up in the Pacific Northwest, and it just felt, I was here in, I think it was May, and it just felt alive. It just felt vibrant. It's not a concrete jungle. And then we did a road trip. We spent 5 days driving up and down the coast, and man, I fell in love with it. Literally got back on the plane, went back to LA, and was living with my girlfriend at the time. And I said, I'm moving, and I'm going soon. If you want to come with me. And she was kind of done with her career in LA as well. And I think it was literally 6 weeks later, I was living up here.
Oh, wow. So that was quick. So it's just go back, pack up.
I was done, and I was looking for kind of the next thing. And again, I think, it was informed from going from small town Texas to LA.
Right.
It's I have no problem, then going from LA to up here, fresh start. And I knew I could kind of trailblaze, because by then I had a skill set. So I knew I could get hired wherever I needed to get hired up here. So I knew I'd have a job. But then, whenever I got here, my training just kept evolving, and that was, that's
okay. Kind of, so you got here, and then then what made you really get make that jump into look, I'm going to get into this unknown thing about startups and, just begin this new idea and actually make it happen.
Yeah. So literally what happened was I was working with a client of mine, and this client and I had a good working rapport, but this day, like, they just weren't getting what I was asking them to do. And I was trying to get them to move their scapulas across their back, like kind of pull them back and then push them away. And they couldn't look in a mirror because that would break their form. And so just kind of in a flash of a moment, and I know nothing about technology at this point, like at all. I just had this idea with some existing technology. I was like, oh, I can have you see my point of view. And when you see my point of view, I think you'll get it. So I said, and they had a device with them and I had my device. And so literally the moment they saw what I was seeing, I mean, they got it.
It was just like, aha, yeah.
And so what I thought was, well, for sure, this technology must exist. And I started looking around at PT clinics and I started looking at all kinds of websites. And the more and more I searched for it, the more and more I was like, this doesn't exist. And as I kept using this technology with other clients, everybody was having the same results. I mean, everybody would be like, oh, I've never seen my body move this way. Like, this is incredible. I mean, I had one client who got really emotional because they were like, oh, my body, like, it looks so much more amazing than what I actually thought it looked like. This is amazing. I've never seen it move this way. And so then I just knew at that point, I've got to start pursuing this. And I had no idea how to go about building a SaaS product, an application.
Right. Because you're right. I mean, even in the mirror, you can't even see that. I mean, that's two-dimensional.
Right.
And like say, if you move to try to sit, then you break form because you're moving the neck. And I think I told you, it's like, I was a swimmer in college and I was a swimmer through college. I started swimming early on. Yeah. And, my coach in Mexico yelling at me for years about, certain thing on my stroke with my left arm. And I was just like, dude, and yelling, but you got to do this. And I was like, Jesus, I mean, I'm doing it. But like, he's showing me. And getting into college in Texas, they hired those cameras that go underwater and then the one that runs on the side. Right. And it was exactly that. I was like, I'd never seen myself swimming, obviously. Right. So I was just like, look at that. So all I have to do is this, like, done. And guess what? My times dropped. I mean, I had reached a plateau in swimming for many years where your incremental performance is diminished. So you're plateauing, and just that move, it was a big actual movement. I was able to go faster. So I went from just long distance also now to sprinting. Yeah. Some things that I've never been able to do. And it was that. I was like, it's just, so all those things that this guy was yelling at me for years. And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm like, so now you're able to finally solve that problem.
Yeah, that aha moment. It's like, even for me, I mean, I've trained some 15,000 sessions in my career, right? And I've never seen this kind of response where someone was like, oh my God, I get it now. But even for me, like when I set up the product and I was watching myself, I thought I was doing exercises correctly. And all of a sudden I'd see that my form was not what I thought it was. And I could not believe that I for sure knew I was doing what I should be doing. And absolutely not.
Wow.
Like, yeah. So even for me, it was such an eye opener. And that's
no, I'm telling you that it is transformational. I go back to that over 20 years ago. And to me, it's like, so this is what that guy was talking about. And it's like, shit, you should have said so.
Yeah.
And I felt so ashamed. And there was a lot of emotion because I'm like, I'm ashamed. I'm like, it seems easy. Like,
right. Yeah. Until you see what someone else is trying to get you to see, like literally see it that way. I mean, it is a world of difference. And the way people respond, like even, I mean, I was training a 13-year-old kid who's trying to be a rower, and I could not get through to him what I was needing him to do. And I mean, literally the moment he saw himself, he just immediately got it. His body changed, and all of a sudden he felt more comfortable in his body because there wasn't this awkward, like, kind of exchange. All of a sudden he was able to go, oh, I see now, I feel now I'm more in my body. And, as a 13-year-old, or at least for me, I was super awkward and gawky and all that kind of stuff. So
same, yeah,
it just changes things that way too. So
yeah, no, again, live that, and I was just like, well, I don't know what you want me to do. I'm doing it as you're explaining, but again, until you see it, it's like, oh, okay, that's fantastic. So you come up with this concept, you have this breakthrough moment, but now it's time to do it. How do you start this thing? It's like, where do you come up with people? You're not in technology, so you want to build a technology company. How you do it without the background?
Yeah, so my COO, his name is Michael, and Michael works out at Nike, and we had tweaked his knee a little bit with doing one of our exercises. So on the Nike campus, he can go to physical therapy, pretty easily. All he has to do is across the campus. But literally, Michael came in one day and he had these papers from a physical therapist, and he said, "What am I supposed to do with these?" And I said, "Well, actually, I have an idea." And Michael very supportively said, "Yes, so what? You have an idea. Everybody has an idea. What are you gonna do about it, right?" So literally, Michael and I just kind of started pursuing him. I said, "Hey, if you'll give me an hour of your time on the weekend, I'll give you a free session. Show me how I would start to build this company. How would I start to get this application process going?" And I still, like, on my desk, I have these note cards. So I'd go over to his home. I don't even know if you can see these, but like drawing up little screens like this. And I keep them here as inspiration because we've gone from this to now having an application. But and I would just show up and he'd say, "Now you're going to draw on every single note card what you think the app is going to look like." And I was like, "Well, who's ever going to use these note cards?" And he said, "Trust me, like this is how it works. This is how it goes." He's like, so for the first year, it was a lot of that kind of just me learning and like kind of getting not an MBA, but I was just learning about how to do this, how to even start a company, all of that kind of stuff. And I just always felt like no matter what, I'll keep doing this until something says like stop. And for instance, like one of the first times I felt that, we went in and we had a company here in town basically say, "Well, for $12,000, we'll give you a quote for how much it's going to cost to build the application." And I thought, well, I don't have $12,000, so this is where it stops. And my sister actually called me up and said, "Hey, just so you know, we're going to be moving some money around with the family, and what we're going to do is send you $14,000 tomorrow in a check." And I was like, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me. All of a sudden I'm going to have a check for $14,000, but now I've got to write a check for $12,000. Because like the universe was kind of like, "Here you go."
Like, I'm going to laugh at you. It's like, here's the money. You get to smell it. And then it goes, yeah. Oh, I've been there. Yeah.
I still made $2,000, but it was just things like that have kept happening throughout this process where I'm just like, all right, like I've got to keep going. And so there's a tenacity and a hard-headedness that I have where I'm going to see this thing through to the next point, the next whatever that happens. But it's just, there's been so many amazing kind of winks from the universe through this process. And that's where like I'm humbled and honored to kind of just be the carrier of the idea forward. It's
no, but that's fantastic. I mean, because that's those are the signs that like, hey, you know what, this is meant to happen. You need to help people. And I just remember, it was really honestly truly inspired. One time we were meeting that you were telling me, we're talking about how to move, to improve my swimming stroke and rowing. But it's also, the farm workers, the people that truly inspire you. And that's what really got my attention, because usually those are the stories that are like, we obviously we want your product to be successful. And you're imagining who's going to pay for that. But ultimately, who you can help in a massive scale. That's what really attracted me to this too.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I see it all the time. I was just down in San Diego, and I was in a van with a Lyft driver, and this driver obviously probably didn't speak English, but ironically, my lower back had been bothering me a little bit because I'd done some heavy lifting and some stuff. And on the flight down, I was with my partner, and I was telling her, I was like, my back's hurting. I was doing this thing where I was putting my arm behind my back to kind of help my lumbar, just kind of sit, because airplane seats are horrible. So then we were in the van, and I said, and the driver at a stoplight was doing the exact same thing. And I said, look, this is exactly like the kind of person where if he goes to the application and says, "My lower back hurts, what I do all day is sit," with 3 or 4 exercises, that gentleman would be out of pain. You think about things like farm workers, migrant workers who are picking avocados all day long, you know, or bent over like harvesting onions. There's some very basic exercises that they could actually go to the application, type in a few of the things that's hurting them, what they're doing all day with these repetitive motions, and they're going to have answers. So we're going to bring healthcare to the masses in that way. And that's where it's extremely exciting. I mean, partnering with PT clinics and all that kind of stuff will be amazing. But as we start to get into partnerships like that, you know, being able to help drivers, being able to help people who are harvesting food.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the juice.
That's the juice. Yeah. And recently, you know, we're helping an organization called Surgery Without Frontiers, CSF Foundation, out of Bakersfield. So it's one of the things that I want to introduce the EDs, because these are phenomenal people. Their whole mission is exactly that. It's a group of surgeons that provide surgeries for people without no insurance for free. And you know, in Bakersfield, so the rural area, they're phenomenal people. They're actually amazing humans, and that's kind of like that's the mission of, and one of the main ideas behind this podcast is connecting those dots. And so like, look, you know, you got something, and if we put those two together, it amplifies the message and the service.
Hell yeah, that's exactly what it's about for me too. I mean, that's where it's going to be exciting. Like I have visions of being, you know, back in LA, Compton or something, and being able to show these kids how they can like do better with their body, how they can do the strengthening exercises, do all kinds of stuff with their body. But getting to see your body like at a young age like as well is so incredible. But again, farm workers and people who are cleaning our homes, who are doing this back-breaking work, you know, there's these very simple little exercises, these little stretches that will make all the difference in the world. And if we can start to alleviate their pain, empower them with their body, how physical they have to be their bodies, I think we're going to be changing, you know, the world in so many ways.
I mean, it's transformation in the way that when you presented to me the first time, it's like, look, it's that easy. I mean, sometimes we think, well, there's a ton of videos in YouTube and they're free. What would I pay you for? Yeah, but again, that's two-dimensional. Someone talking to you like, oh, do this, and you're trying to replicate, and chances are you're going to do it wrong. Like very high probability you're going to do it wrong, and you may actually do more harm than good. But this one, by looking at, hey, this is a simple routine that you could do in your home. You don't need a specialized location, or you don't need to. You can do it on your confines in a very short amount of time, and that can transform your life.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, I'll have really good working relationships with my clients, and I'll be like, do this exercise, and I won't see them again for a week, and they'll come back and they'll be like, I don't know, like when I do the exercise, my shoulder hurts, and I'm like, oh no, you've been doing it wrong. And the idea is now, like when we can record, they can watch themselves. They'll get to hear what I was saying in the actual session. There's going to be all of these kind of little things that we'll do that's especially built for practitioners like myself to be able to stay connected to people remotely in that way, making sure that you're not doing the exercise wrong, that you are doing exactly what was being told to you to do. I mean, all of that kind of stuff is vital to what we'll be doing.
Okay. Yeah. And like you said, also for the practitioner to validate that they're actually doing it right.
Right. It's a huge one to keep contact with people remotely now, especially with us being all on Zoom and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, this one-dimensional kind of thing doesn't work that well. The moment we throw in a second screen and be able to see two different angles and all of that kind of stuff, it's going to change the game drastically. So
well, and I know, you know, that you started this company with a small seed check, you know, this is how, you know, things start, you know, okay, let's get an MVP, let's get a small prototype. You started forming your team, and now, you know, then you got to go out and raise some capital. How hard has it been for you to raise capital in a city that, well, you're relatively new, also not in tech, so, you know, kind of the things that the VCs don't want to hear?
Right. Yeah. No. So it's hard. I mean, but that's the thing is it's a challenge, and it's about getting in front of the right people and all of that kind of stuff. But I mean, I'm again, it's my mindset. I love the challenge. I love the going out and pitching and talking and showing this. And I was so fortunate to have the amount of seed money that we had come in, so we could build a minimal viable product. Now we're shifting to a team of engineers down in Mexico City that you introduced us to. And so, like, you know, we're
phenomenal people.
Yeah, incredible people. Our chief design officer, Ben, you know, also he has an ability to see the vision of the design, and that's such an important one too for the application. So I mean, our team is super strong right now, and so I just have all the faith in the world that, like, you know, these things are coming together as they should come together, and it feels like nothing is happening before it should, because what I'm learning and through all of the studying I'm doing is getting too much money too early is also a curse, because all of a sudden, like, you can't overwater a plant, right? So it's
Right.
trusting the process, trusting that we're growing in the right way, that I'm learning, that the team is learning. I mean, it's all of that kind of coming together at the same time.
Correct. No, then that's absolutely true. I mean, you can overwater the plant, and that kills it
Right.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and so right now, you know, you're in the process of still, you know, trying to raise, you know, a new round. You know, now we have COVID. You know, what are the main challenges that you've seen in this era of trying to raise capital virtually versus before?
Right. So for me, what I love to do, I love to be in person with people. Like, there's something about being able to read somebody's body. And I mean, I've spent so much time reading bodies that I get to see the nuances. I get to understand all of that kind of stuff. But one of the things that's really difficult is to not have somebody experience what the experience is. Then it's really hard for me. I can talk about it, but the moment somebody experiences it, that changes it, right? Then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I get this. I've never seen my body this way. I've never seen this happen before. I've never understood that I was doing this or that wrong. So the hardest thing for me is to not be in person, not be at the boardroom, not be drawn up on a whiteboard. That's right when COVID hit. That's what was about to start happening, is we were going to be pitching in person and doing that. And so remotely I mean, it has its challenges, but, you know, we're going to be in a remote world for a while, that's for sure. And so in certain ways too, going remote has really validated the product and the necessity to have these extra tools specifically built for practitioners. So in certain ways, it's really good too.
Yeah, no, and absolutely, and especially for in the area of telemedicine, we've seen it. You know, it just obviously was a necessity. It had to be done. There was no other option. But that's something that's here to stay, and it's going to continue to grow. You know, it's going to be the norm now from now on.
Yeah, and that's what we're adapting to, and that's what we're starting to understand. And there's so much money in the telehealth education sector right now, you know. So it's just a matter of, again, getting it in front of the right people, getting the right meetings going, and then showing that. I mean, what we've done with the amount of money we had to build an MVP has been incredible, and that's because of the way Michael and Ben have both operated. I mean, it's been phenomenal so far. So
okay, and you know, for you as a new founder, what have been the you know, other than building a team and getting the money, other challenges that you've experienced that you said, man, this was something I was not prepared for?
I think so much of it really has been going from me being so used to being in front of people, you know, again, having to be in this remote kind of place. But then I've always been so even with training 15,000 sessions, that was always me in control, right? That was always me. And now hiring a team and trying to understand the nuances of managing and engaging with those teams and the people, that's been really hard, because frequently I just have to submit and say, I don't know, or tell me, because I don't have a background in tech. So when we have meetings with engineers and they're, you know, talking whatever they're talking about, building, I'm like, oh, somebody please break it down for me, like in very simple terms, so I understand what's happening here. So there's just been this growth, I mean, where I've had to learn so much so quickly, and that's been a challenge, but it's also, I mean, I love that. I love learning new stuff. It's basically like learning a new language in a lot
Totally.
You know, like talking to engineers and all of that. So, and just learning things like customer acquisition costs and what, you know, I mean, just all of that kind of stuff that I'm starting to take in, and you know, building pitch decks properly and understanding all the metrics of stuff that are important to investors and VCs and all of that kind of stuff. So it's all just been, you know, it's just been a learning curve that has been extraordinarily challenging, but also something I'm enjoying a whole lot.
No, absolutely. It seems because you're a natural, man, and you know, but you're right. You know, one thing is in the design process, you know, the exploration, you know, which you already had, and you know, you talked to, you know, 15,000 sessions, you've talked to a multitude of people, you know, then you know, the you know, prototyping, which you guys are doing right now. But now it's just like also the validation. I mean, if this, you know, how do you make this into a viable business model that people want to, number one, put their money in, and that you want to not only grow but scale.
Right, exactly, and that's a big one. How do you scale something like, yeah, sure, you have a heck of a good idea.
Yeah.
How do you get it out to the masses? How do you, show it started to get legs and traction and all that kind of stuff, and so, but I mean, that's something that I love doing though. So like going down to San Diego or going to LA, I can walk into a gym at any point in time and I have so much confidence that I can walk up to any trainer and be like, give me 3 minutes of your time. I want to show you something. And every time they're like, heck yeah, like, where do I sign up? Like this is incredible. When's the product going to be on market? And that's, as we go into beta testing with the customers and all that kind of stuff, that's going to be that'll be an exciting time. And that's been a hard part of this too, is, it's kind of like been, what I'm used to is like game time on the field. Like, and that's just for me. Yeah, let's go. And this has been a whole lot of me kind of just hanging out in the locker room.
And patience.
Patience. Patience. And so, I mean, I've said before that this application will be my greatest spiritual teacher today, for sure. And it absolutely is. It's teaching me so much patience and how to just sit with things not being in my control,
No, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. And honestly, as it grows, the things are going to be less in your control. Right. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest experiences. Like, how do you just let go and let other people, run with the ball? It's like, hey, here is go.
Yeah, and then you trust the team that you've brought around you, and then all of a sudden, like, yeah, you're hardly in control, and then I'm just, I'll be talking to people in the office and all of that kind of stuff, and I look forward to that too. Or I look forward to the day that I'm on the board and the idea has gone on. But from day one, I always felt like the idea chose me. I hadn't been trying to solve this problem per se. I didn't know this was a possibility. So when the idea came through, it came through in a heartbeat, and then I was like, oh, this is incredible. But it's pretty,
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you guys are almost in beta testing. So, when is this happening?
So that'll be early. Well, probably around March is when we'll really start getting customer feedback, really start letting people see like what's going on with that. And that will coincide with as we raise more money and we start to build in more features and all of that kind of stuff. Because we solved for some problems that we didn't know if we were even going to be able to solve for. So our angels gave us the money, and basically they kind of knew. They just said, we trust you. We trust you as the founder. We've seen the idea working, and we trust that you're going to be able to bring this thing to market. And so,
absolutely.
So yeah, getting that, and now having solved for the problems we didn't know if we could solve for, getting some cameras to talk to each other. A lot of this stuff, I mean, it's never been done before, so we had no idea if that would really work or not. So
right. No, I remember doing the testing, and man, being able to see in two different angles. That was just like that was key. Again, just to doing some. No, I'm not swimming anymore, obviously. But being able to do some basic stretches when you think, well, I think I'm doing them right, and once you see in your camera first, like, it's like, all right.
Yeah, I still, I'll turn it on and check some of my stuff when I'm doing yoga or I'm lifting some heavier weights, and I'll definitely be like, wow, where I thought I was not where I was. Like, I need to be here, making some small micro adjustments, but those adjustments prevent injury. They help you get, better range of motion. They help you access the muscles you're trying to access. So even for me, like, I still am constantly just in awe of the fact that when I get to see myself from this different kind of angle, that it just goes, oh, right, this is what I need to be feeling. And just seeing that helps so much. Yeah.
Well, and this is a fascinating journey now, from Texas to Portland via LA. So it's just like a roller coaster. And now, in a lockdown, you said, what experience do you think has been the most transformational for you just in the past couple of years since you started this?
Oh man, that's a really good question, because there's been so many. Like, what I've had to learn, the way I've had to adjust, the way, how much I'm learning is so incredible. But definitely, I mean, when COVID hit, we were on one trajectory, and the moment COVID hit, I mean, I had to sit there. Like, I actually was in the process of moving, and then my other place fell through. I had to sit in an Airbnb for 30 days, by myself, just kind of going, what are we going to do now? I wasn't able to carry on with my old job, so I was going full-fledged into this company. I was like, this is going to be my prime focus. But COVID was a really big one. Securing that angel money was another really big one, because then it was like, oh, we're turnkey. We're going to start this MVP process. And then I thought for sure I would still have this like CEO kind of role, but all of a sudden I had to let the team take over and manage everything. And when I would sit in on a scrum, which is, you know, we have these scrums every 2 weeks, and hear what the engineering team had been doing, I didn't know what in the world was going on. And that right there, that level of me having to just sit back and go, I have no idea. Just full trust in my team that, you know, everything was going the way it should be going. That, you know, that's humbling. I mean, that is, you know, kicking the ego to the back. And it's so much trust. So, you know, those are probably kind of the top three is the COVID hitting, securing the money, and then building the MVP and just going, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm having to trust that we will have something that will be functional and usable. And, you know,
and just to get you to the next, to the next round,
right?
Because this is just like boxing, you know. Hey, you gotta make it to 12 at least.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy, and that's exactly right. Like, I mean, it felt like round 1 and round 2. I mean, it was some close to knockout blows, but you know, it's like stabilizing, settling in, and then I mean, I just go back again to no matter what I know is that this will help people. And that's where I derive joy and having full confidence in the product and what it's going to do for people. That's all. It's start with why. You know, that's a great book.
Yeah.
Start with why. Just stick with the why I'm doing this. And if I go back to that has always pulled me through. No matter how much I'm confused or scared or, you know, there's all of that. But yeah.
Absolutely. It's a powerful book. Yeah, like, because when you're low, especially when one is low right now, it's like, why am I doing this? You know, why am I here? Why am I fucking, you know, screwing around with this thing or with these people? You know, because there's up and downs, and like in any relationship, it's like, why am I doing this? And it's like, okay, calm down, breathe, and like, okay. So
yeah, I have
this is why I started. Yeah,
I was talking to another founder the other day, to her and her husband, and they're going after 25 million right now, but you know, she said, like, she was just like, I will never do this again. Like, you know, she's 6 years deep. And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, serial entrepreneurs, man. It's a wild one, but there is a rush to it. But the highs are really high and the lows are
super low.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you're exactly right. It's going back to why did I start this thing? And if I get back to that, if I can get beyond all of the fear stuff that's happening, it's such a solid feeling within me that I'm like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, I can keep going.
This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it.
And one of the things that, you know, I've talked to other founders, but it's still kind of like a stigma, or you know, in some places, you know, flat out a taboo, is that mental health. And you profess a lot of that. I mean, with your meditation practice, I know we talk about it, and but again, it's something that we keep hearing about. But I don't hear anyone talking like the way you talk about it. Like, you just, you know, what do you do to keep yourself mentally healthy?
Yeah, so for me, it's a lot of routine, because there's days when I wake up and I'm hoping to see an email from an investor or something like that, and I don't see the emails, or I don't see it for a week, and then in my mind I'm building stories. Oh, they hate the idea there, and then of course they were just on vacation for a week. You know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But in that, things that are really crucial for me is a meditation practice. So in that is just sitting quietly, focusing on the breath, and watching the mind run crazy and do its thing, and then keep coming back to the breath, keep coming back to the breath. And there's something about that for me that is crucial, because my mind will make up a gazillion stories a day, but meditation just remind me that the brain is doing what it's doing. It's just running programs. So between that and then a really solid physical practice, like just keeping my body in shape, eating right, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And it's not easy. I mean, there's plenty of days where I don't see the emails I'm hoping, or I don't have the meetings I want, and like, it's like I want to go back to bed and just
scroll.
Yeah. And so frequently it's just sticking with a routine that I can do, and that's manageable. A lot of it is reading about other CEOs who've built companies and the ways that they have gone about it, and all their highs and lows, and that is always super helpful for me as well.
Right. Which book, you know, have you, or CEO have you read? I was like, man, this is a cool story.
Right. I mean, so one of the books that I'm reading right now is the 15 conscious decisions of leaders. And so these 15 conscious decisions, and the reason why, I mean, the three people that wrote it have all kind of been involved with CEOs and what it's like with these leaders and how they build, but curiosity being one of the biggest ones, and hearing about how people who stay curious, even to your own fear or what's going on, like that, all of that is actually, I think that is one of the, and that's their number one is staying curious. And for me, that is always like a really powerful one. And that's one of the things that they're saying in this book. But there's, I mean, like the TRX guy, you know, TRX straps, they're these.
Yeah.
So he was ex military, and it took him 10 years to get those TRX straps really into the world to where it was a positive company. But he was a Navy SEAL, and he was saying that he felt like it was easier to be on the war field with bullets buzzing by with his brothers because he knew that they weren't going to leave. But in a company, he said it's terrifying because these people could have another job like the next day, they have a better offer. He's like, so having a team, you know, like the Navy SEALs, it was easier to have bullets buzzing by my head than it was bringing this company to fruition. And now it's $100 million company or whatever, and TRX is branching out in all kinds of different ways. But hearing his story, I was just like, wow, okay, some of these feelings of PTSD that I have and some of this, it's for real. When you hear a SEAL say that, it's
no, absolutely. Wow. No, and again, it's about control and trust. Trust,
right? And controlling what you can control. And so that goes back to, I know if I wake up every day, get my butt on the cushion and sit and just breathe for even 10 minutes, if that's all I do, I can control that. I can control how I move my body. Those are the things I can control when nothing else seems to be going right, you know?
Right. Because, you know, you and I have talked about it's easy then to compare ourselves to others, you know, successes and failures. And at some point it's just like, no, hang on. I have my own path, you know. You know, yeah, we can see some other people just skyrocketing and, you know, on their own accord, or some others just like wow, and that really tweaks you. I mean, it really messes you up, and you know, no matter how many people tell, oh, don't let that affect you. Like, of course, I mean,
oh, it does. Yeah,
it does.
I knew that specifically about another CEO I know, and I was like, why are they having so much success? And like, what's going on here? And that's the thing. Like, comparison is the thief of joy. You know, I mean, that's the whole thing. But the moment I start to look around and go like, wait a second, why are they? Then I know I'm in trouble. And that's one of those moments to go like, nope, I just come back.
Back. Yeah.
Yeah, I can look at why other people failed, you know, but and that can help me avoid some things, and then why people have succeeded as well, you know. But the moment I start to compare, you're absolutely right. I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Sure. And it's just maybe compare. Well, not compare, but just like in some instances, like analyze the why. Like, why is this happening? Good and bad, and what can I learn from that?
Right. Yeah. And that's it's that analyzation is a good way to put it, because again, what can I learn? Why did they succeed? Why did they fail? I mean, that's really important. But not to sit there and be like, well, this is such a good idea. Why isn't my company taking off? Why aren't bringing the same amount of money they are? Why? That's where I mean, you're absolutely right. That's where I get in trouble. And so
but it happens to everyone, man. I mean, we both have seen companies, raising a ton of money and then just go boom.
Yeah.
And some of people, but my idea it's better, and then it's like, why don't they like me? It's like, well, that's what we need to figure out.
Right. Well, and that's some of the stuff that goes back to like auditioning for me. Back when I used to audition, I'd go in and I'd audition and I would nail an audition. I'd be like, I for sure got the job, no doubt, and then never hear again. But then I'd be fortunate enough to, like, one time I talked to a casting director and I was like, I nailed that audition. Like, why didn't I get the job? And this guy, he said, the reason you didn't get it was the main producer on that commercial shoot said that you looked like her ex-boyfriend and she didn't want to be around you because it was too painful. Right. So so you never know, right? Like, you never know. And same thing.
Things out of your control. Totally. Nothing you would have done that would have just from the get-go, you already disqualified. Yeah.
Right. And the casting director was like, you nailed it. Like, you were my top choice. You were everybody's top choice. But the main producer had all the money, said, nope, don't want them on set. So I bring that to the mentality, like whenever we pitch and we do what we do, there's a million reasons why an investor may or may not invest, you know.
Right.
So learning to show up the best I possibly can in that moment and then let it go and step away. And that's always really crucial for me. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Nathan, you know, when can we expect Neuflect in our apps and our phones?
Oh, I mean, like next year, you know.
All right.
Yeah. We have a solid, steady momentum, and yeah, for me, I always feel like we're just one meeting away. We're just that one connection away. It's you know, and when having built the MVP that we have, like we're ready just to bring in the features and then go full bore ahead. So
that's fantastic, man. I really, you know, we're going to be keeping an eye on you, and definitely, you know, want to have you back in the show next year and giving us, you know, an update, you know, see how things are going and anything that we can do to contribute in our network of founders. I mean, I know we have a lot of people. Like I said, I already have, you know, one foundation that I want to connect you with, and see who else, because you know we're over 150 founders. You know, like let's see, you know, what can we do to help each other, man.
Absolutely, and it's about networking. I mean, it's all about as they say, right? And so, yeah, any way I can help as well. I mean, I'd be honored. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I know I finally convinced you to be on the show. I really love it, man. Love your story, and you know, we're gonna have you, you know, back in the show pretty soon.
Awesome, brother. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, take care.